I like to know where people stand so I know how to treat you accordingly.
They be trying to do it, I'm just doing me. I be working hard and they just want it free.
Be competitive with yourself. Hey, what's going on? It's Jsean for another video. This is another Jsean Speaks. A quick little words of wisdom. Keep it kind of short and sweet as much as I can, like the last video. Basically, I wanted to talk about something specific here, and it's about your environment, right? So when we think about ourselves and our personalities and where we are in life, everything happens in there's so many things. It's not one thing that changes everything. It's a whole bunch of little things that become something, and we have to kind of break down our issues and solve them one piece at a time, right? So one thing that I've realized is that that's very important is our environment, right? You got to think of maybe like especially if you're like a creative person or something like that. You know, you ever heard of a person who like writes novels or something? They got to be in a certain mind space, mental space to be able to create, because they're thinking of ideas from scratch. It's not just a idea of doing an action of like picking something up physically or something like that. It's like creating the idea of whatever they're doing from scratch in their mind. So they need their mind clear, right? So if you're that type of person, you know, you go to some lake house or some type of place away from noise and peace, and you just kind of get your mind open and clear without overthinking certain things, and you kind of start creating in that way. And even if you're not a creative and you need to take plans of action, you got to think, why aren't you taking those plans of action? Whether it means like, why don't you have certain discipline in your life? Why don't you have this certain routine in your life? Sometimes that's a different video, actually, you know, to have discipline. But in this particular one, I just want to focus on environment. Environment is basically things that are around you, whether it be the people or the places or the things that are around you, that surround you, whether it be conversations that surround you. That's all part of your environment. If you feel as though every time that you're around this environment and you're not growing and you're trying your best and you're honestly thinking that you're putting your best foot forward and you're just not growing, I always do a weird example of mold, but another example that I heard actually somewhere on the internet is the same concept of what I'm saying, but it's a prettier example. It's basically like having a plant or a flower, and you know, you're watering the flower, you're giving it the sun it needs, but it's not growing for some reason. You don't blame the plant, which is you're not blaming yourself. You just start questioning the soil. You start questioning, is it the sun quality? You start questioning all these different things in the environment of why that thing isn't growing. And then that's when you start paying attention and you start feeding it differently. You start storing it in a certain place differently. You allow it to get the sunlight it needs properly so it can grow, because that plant might die or it might grow, but it'll grow in a very slow pace versus maybe at its rate, the rapid rate where it's meant to be. So if you think about your life in this sense, if you feel like you're not growing or going in a certain direction in a good enough pace, I'm not saying super quick. I mean, sometimes things that are fast are not always that good as well. You know what I mean? So, but if you're not growing in a decent pace, then something's wrong. You have to change your environment. You have to change certain things. And it could be deeper than that. It could be simple as just discipline for yourself and having a regimen or some type of schedule, productivity schedule, something that is allowing you to take basically compound things that you do that add on top of each other that allow you to keep growing and going in a certain direction versus just running in place. I always call this like the hamster effect, where you're running hard. A hamster runs very hard on a hamster wheel but goes nowhere. They feel like they're doing hard work. They're actually doing hard work, and they're physically moving and you know, using their energy, but they're actually going nowhere. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Just make sure that you start focusing on your environment, start breaking down your circumstances very small, and start trying to figure out what the issue is and what you can make happen out of your life and make it better. So with that being said, make sure you do everything at top level, at your top level. Remember, you're no competition with anybody except yourself. So make sure your next move is your best move, or at least your better move. Until next time.